Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for anyone that's over on the West Coast. I'd like to start off today by reintroducing everyone to NetApp. And we describe ourselves to the street and to the financial analysts as a cloud-led, data-centric software company rather than a data storage company. And what that really means is we have software and cloud services that we've developed that can manage data everywhere. And we also have a platform for cloud operations that manages applications and compute optimization into the cloud. Actually, can you go forward the slide here? Today, our solutions, can meet customers at just about any point wherever they're at in their journey, either to the cloud or optimizing workloads on premise. And so, we kind of look holistically at what a customer needs or desires in order to operate an infrastructure on premise in a hybrid configuration, or cloud first, or even multi-cloud deployments. And as we continue to build out our data storage systems, which most people are familiar with, we've done a couple things to them as well. As one is we've enabled our systems so that they can make it easier to deploy private cloud service offerings. And all of the software that we build incorporates cloud native or cloud connected features that make building these hybrid environments simpler. In the case of ONTAP, which is on the bottom right here, that little green box, it operates on our FAS and AFF storage controllers, and it represents our enterprise systems or our enterprise class capability that agencies, mission partners, and commercial businesses use to run their businesses or missions 24/7. And then StorageGrid WebScale is an ILM-based object repository, and we're starting to see a lot of customers build object repositories on-premise first because they either want high-performance access to resources in an object format, or they're accessing these objects quite frequently, which is sort of opposite of the way the cloud object repos are built, in the hyperscalers. As we kind of move into the top right of my little graph here, we're the only vendor with first-party services in all three hyperscalers, and that includes Azure, AWS, and Google. These first-party services are different than what you might find in a marketplace item, for instance. So in the case of Azure, we have Azure NetApp Files. It's a first-party service available natively through the Azure console. In the case of AWS, we have FSx for ONTAP, and it's a first-party service that Microsoft incorporates into their FSx framework. And then lastly, we have Cloud Volume Services. That's a Google offering. But what we find is that these enterprise-level services help improve the availability, the reliability, and efficiency of cloud environments, and it makes cloud architectures much faster and easier to deploy for our customers. And I can just start with a simple example. If you can imagine, saving up to 50% of your block-based storage bill automatically by using enterprise features like dedupe compression and dynamic data tiering, you'll require roughly half the cloud volumes versus the native storage that you would procure from a hyperscaler. And then the remaining part of the conversation that we're really going to focus on today is around cloud operations and the services that we build for helping consumers deploy applications anywhere, manage new data workloads, and secure operations and gain observability into these new operational environments. It works in the cloud and works on premise. So next slide, please. We like to think of what's happening across the world today as, effectively the migration to the cloud has ended. What we see is customers that want to be in cloud are there already, and others that want to maintain an on-premise or a hybrid configuration are doing that as well. And so what customers are trying to achieve now is what we describe as a hybrid cloud vision. And that's one where they're focused on building technology. We're focused on building technologies that help enable that. And aspirationally, we want to get to the point where we have this evolved cloud capability where customers can take advantage of any of the resources in the cloud, across cloud, or on-premise in order to achieve their mission workloads. So today, I make a kind of a bold statement here. I think, NetApp has become the most interesting company in everyone's IT portfolio. And why do I say that? We're the only vendor that can unify hybrid and across cloud environments, and we have new capabilities that manage those applications and compute resources as well. So, if you need a faster way to move analytics or AI into production, you can think NetApp. You need to develop and deploy new applications on Kubernetes. We have an integration that makes Kubernetes better. You need a way to answer regulatory or compliance questions. We've got a service for that. And lastly, if you need a way to observe or understand or manage expenses in the cloud, that's also NetApp. And you're going to hear a lot about that, as I hand off the microphone here. In terms of what we're building to enable this evolved cloud platform, it's called BlueXP. BlueXP is our new universal platform that unifies all of our data capabilities. And then for optimizing compute and application resources, we have the Spot portfolio, of which CloudCheckr is one of those. And so as I sort of kind of walk through this slide, you can think of us developing a suite of unified capabilities or common services that integrate both of these platforms, one for the data estate and the other one for your compute and application estate. And then they integrate and work seamlessly across all of our customer environments. And what I see my biggest challenge is informing customers and all my other partners that I work with of the innovative work that we're doing and how that helps translate to success in your mission or agency. And so, if I kind of look at, some of the hard challenges that we're solving right now, at least in the Spot portfolio, is, how do we see FinOps affecting business and what high level points should you take away? One of the things that I think we see is that our customers are working to define the best cost per unit of work. And so then it becomes a conversation around return on investment or a revenue calculation, not necessarily, hey, I just saved cost in my cloud. It's really about how do I achieve the right balance of the application performance, throughput, or operational characteristics at the right price points in the clouds. And so you can study the effects of where you want to spend more money to achieve greater success. And for my commercial business partners or the commercial businesses that I support, they're really talking about how do I maximize profit or revenue. In the case of our public sector customers, it's how do I do the most with the funds that I have allocated. So with that, I'm going to pass it off and we can continue the conversation. I'll hang on if we have any questions.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Kirk, for your time and that overview. And I think what you shared sets the stage nicely as we move to the more technical piece of this session, led by Eric Morrissey. Eric is CloudCheckr's principal solutions engineer, and he's been helping customers monitor, optimize, and secure their cloud environments since 2017. So thank you, Eric, for being here, and looking forward to hearing how CloudCheckr can help our customers reduce spend and increase visibility.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks for the tee up, Kirk. I'm excited to be here. Our acquisition into the NetApp portfolio, I think, has been a really smooth one, and sets, I think, NetApp and especially the Spot portfolio up to be, as Kirk said, the most interesting company, especially in public and hybrid cloud. CloudCheckr actually has a pretty long and fruitful partnership with both public and private sector customers. We are very well entrenched within various, like, federal government and DoD use cases. But what I want to sort of establish here is CloudCheckr is one of the sort of premier partners for cloud management within the space right now. Now, all of the cloud providers, your AWSs, your Azures, your Googles, have some native tools that will help with things like basic cost visibility and optimization. But the truth is that almost all customers that are using public cloud infrastructure that are growing past even a modest level of usage are finding that those tools tend to be a little underpowered for what you're looking for. And so folks that are using more than one cloud provider, or folks that are expanding into more complicated use cases, need for better visibility, allocation, optimization, are looking towards third-party services that are investing more heavily in exactly those areas. And CloudCheckr is really leading the space there. We are seeing customers that save as much as 30% on their actual infrastructure bill, and that's not to say, and that's even without sort of tracking operational savings from time reduction around tracking their spend, their budgets. Plus time spent for finance folks, for SecOps folks, basically, the things that really make the meta management of public cloud complicated and difficult as sort of a new paradigm CloudCheckr seeks to simplify. So let's talk about the basics. To frame the problem, CloudCheckr is trying to simplify and make easy to interpret the deluge of information that comes from the public cloud. And what I mean by that is there is plenty of information out there that helps you understand what you have in the cloud and how it's configured and how you're utilizing and what you're paying for it. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that information is easy to find or easy to digest once you've gotten it. And even just the process of collecting it and storing it might be something that, unless you're really, really willing to invest in, something that just, isn't business differentiating for anybody that's using it, or really isn't something that should be part of an actual critical mission. So CloudCheckr's goal is to automate the processes of data collection from public API endpoints and metric repositories and logging mechanisms and billing data so that you get an easy API or an easy set of API adapters that plug in to your AWS, Azure, or Google deployments, get out the necessary information to help you understand the core, important questions about, about what you're doing in the cloud. And then CloudCheckr produces for you reporting and recommendations that seek to help you sort of round out the sharp corners that come along with using public cloud. Most people move to AWS or to Azure or Google because they expect to go into the public cloud and see cost savings, and they see the sort of the philosophies of high availability and agility and basically just healthy innovation. But if they don't necessarily know how to capitalize on those things, they're going to find that that's not what they see. They see cost overruns. They see exposures in terms of security posture that might stop projects. Oftentimes people are moving to public cloud and then finding that they're doing it without the expertise and without the tooling that they need, and it winds up and you wind up backpedaling, or things wind up stalling, or you wind up pulling things out altogether. CloudCheckr helps people go into the cloud and realize the potential of the public cloud by ensuring that people are seeing the lower costs that they expect. They are seeing healthy security boundaries and growth, and they're actually using the resources made available to them by the public cloud providers as intelligently as possible. And we do this by providing a number of different features with CloudCheckr. First and foremost being visibility into the environment. The way that CloudCheckr works is that it is it's a SaaS tool. It is provided a window into public cloud environments through native access control objects from those providers. So example, for AWS, we would give CloudCheckr an identity and access management role into my account or accounts, and CloudCheckr then uses that role to start hitting different programmatically hitting different API endpoints and logging mechanisms and gathering those to help us, again, better understand what we have. Part of that is cost data, understanding all of the services that are being used and the financial impact of using those services. We'll also go direct to specific services to get lists of the resources themselves and the configuration of those resources, things that might not necessarily just show up on an invoice or in cost information. But we'll also go to metric repositories. Again, if we're using AWS as an example, we'll go to things like CloudWatch so that we know not just what the resource is or how it's being configured or what it cost us, but also how completely or incompletely it's being utilized. So now with this really, really well-rounded picture of what's in an environment, we can start expanding that out into figuring out, do we actually have what we need? And so from visibility, we can start going into, if we're sort of quite literally from the slide that we're looking at, going outward from there, we can look at, this is what we have, and here's how we can sort of join up utilization metrics with that. And so we can start making decisions about whether there are things that we can get rid of to reduce our cost. Can we reduce our overall footprint without sacrificing any performance to optimize our environment for cost? Does the resource utilization that we're seeing within that reporting actually reflect a healthy, performant, and overall efficient environment? We also know how our resources are configured, including things like, say, networking objects, or access control policies on, let's say, storage resources. And so we can also make decisions like, or we can make evaluations like, are we set up set up properly for a strong security posture, and can we make changes that might actually harden that and make us better users, smarter, more intelligent users of public cloud services overall. These feed back into processes like cost allocation and chargeback or showback, FinOps processes, DevOps processes. I would say those the first four that we talked about are sort of the building blocks, and those ultimately become part of operational processes like your sort of overall like FinOps and DevOps processes, including cost allocation and showback. But this CloudCheckr is a very broad platform, and the information that we collect goes through a lot of different reports and features. But this is a useful way to actually group together what we provide into a few like digestible buckets. Okay. Sorry, I'm taking a look over at the chat just to make sure that I can answer any questions. Looks like there's one about, does CloudCheckr give forecast data metrics that we pulled out of the cloud of a planned workload that we shifted to the cloud? So it sounds like the question here is, does CloudCheckr help us with migrations to the cloud, or can CloudCheckr help us project costs for something that's outside of the cloud and could go to the cloud? Easy answer to that is no. CloudCheckr is coded right now to pull information from the API endpoints that are made available to us by the public cloud providers. So think of CloudCheckr largely as a post-deployment tool for monitoring posture evaluation and cost management once you have moved to the public cloud. However, CloudCheckr is intended sort of as a handoff piece from some other tools within the NetApp portfolio that can help with that exact thing. Kirk beat me to the punch there in the chat, but Cloud Insights is a perfect example of a tool that has that can sort of sit on the fence and do both. Cloud Insights can gather information from on-premise deployments that would help with better modeling once you move to the cloud, and Cloud Insights can do a little bit of monitoring once you get into the public cloud. CloudCheckr is something that has a little bit broader of a set of tools for monitoring across more services once you've moved to the public cloud. So it would be a good sort of transition point to go from something that is moving from public cloud and then needs broader and deeper reporting on public cloud to go from Cloud Insights to CloudCheckr. And that actually brings us to an interesting, or I should say, segues nicely into this slide that we're looking at right now, which is CloudCheckr within the context of other tools at NetApp. Technically, we are a part of a sub-portfolio within NetApp called the Spot by NetApp portfolio. Spot is a toolkit for public cloud operations management, and they do a lot of different things with their individual services. CloudCheckr, of this operational workflow that we're seeing on the screen right now, is particularly useful for visibility. In fact, I would say it makes up the majority of what Spot can do as far as visibility, data collection and analysis, and then reporting on that information. We also do quite a bit of the optimization piece in terms of providing recommendations, basically like data interpretation. And CloudCheckr does a lot of like policy-based evaluation of configuration and utilization that can help us establish governance, basically establish standard within a given environment. And where we pass off to the other tools, especially things like Eco and Elastic Group and Ocean, is in the automation piece. CloudCheckr, for the most part, is based on read-only access into an environment, and our goal is to gather information and hand it off to, gather information, push it through reporting tools and recommendation engines so that insight makes it to the customer, and they can then decide what to do with it. When they are ready, maturity-wise, to start handing over some more operational processes to automation tools, that's when we would typically introduce tools like, say, an Ocean to help with better automation around your containerized workload management, and Eco for automatic like purchase and resale of reservations. Elastigroup if you're ready to use spot instances for workloads that support it. So tools other than CloudCheckr in the Spot portfolio, think of largely as the automation that we lay on top of the visibility foundation that CloudCheckr makes up. So let's talk about that visibility in CloudCheckr. Truly the foundational things that CloudCheckr provides, especially to our public sector customers, is the ability to untangle the complexity of usage in public cloud. The availability of resources, the simple fact that your usage and consumption can change within a couple clicks by any given developer that has access within your AWS or Azure environments, notwithstanding like access brokering tools and stuff like that, means that having something that is continuously looking at your environment and snapshotting your environment and helping you to analyze the data streams that keep track of what you're using is completely imperative. AWS has tools like, say, Cost Explorer to help do basic cost reporting just from the AWS console itself. However, as soon as you have customers that are using both AWS and even a little bit of another cloud provider, or starting on AWS or on Azure and moving to AWS, as soon as you have somebody using more than one cloud provider, that decentralization, or I should say, trying to use the native tools to manage, increases by a factor of however many public cloud providers that you're using. And so CloudCheckr's ability to centralize that experience, make available a portal for one place to go for all of your cloud consumption reporting is crucial. We also invest more heavily in our reporting tools. We are more customer focused in the way that we design our tools. We have tools for like post-ingestion enrichment of reporting. So in other words, we can ingest the information that is coming from the cloud provider, but should, say, you as a partner delivering cloud infrastructure down to an end customer need to adjust cost data based on maybe contracted rates that you're providing to them, differentiate within, say, an invoice that you want to provide to them compared to what they would actually just pay AWS going directly from them. CloudCheckr can handle things like that. CloudCheckr can also handle augmentation of attributes within cost data. So in other words, a line item of cost data comes to us or comes through our reporting that maybe was supposed to be tagged in a certain way, but then wasn't. CloudCheckr can help augment that, build your own business logic into it, and make sure that reporting that you get out of CloudCheckr is as complete and as useful as possible. Ultimately, what we're getting back to is something that Kirk brought up before, which is the most accurate or the most complete understanding that we can have of our return on investment, or I should say the value that is provided to us by our investment in cloud infrastructure. It is the core concept of like public cloud FinOps to understand the unit economics of your cloud consumption. CloudCheckr's ability to provide really accurate cost allocation reporting that can deeply analyze even a specific service's usage down to individual device IDs, and even splitting device IDs into different types of usage that they're that they are generating. Even a single EC2 instance might have data transfer, might have on-demand hours associated with it. It might have some reserved hours associated with it. It's going to have storage associated with block storage volumes that it's attached to. Each one of these written to a very complicated usage file in tiny, tiny little increments of usage. And so CloudCheckr helps quite a bit with untangling that and providing really easily digestible usage reporting to the customer. CloudCheckr also has a really robust RBAC system, which means that even in large and segmented environments, you can provide dashboards specific to users that should only see, say, one account within your 50 account organization or 5 accounts within your 50 account organization. You've got a closely curatable experience for cost reporting that, again, can aggregate across different cloud providers and even provide partners that are doing resale the ability to do pricing customization. Now, imagine you're getting your phone bill at the end of the month, and Verizon or whoever is attaching another page to the end of it that says, hey, here are all the things that you could do to reduce your bill. Like, how wouldn't that be nice? That is exactly what CloudCheckr does. You can very easily transition from one page that tells you exactly what you are consuming and where within your business is consuming the most and how, to a page that says, these are the exact things that you can do. You can turn off this resource, you can get rid of this resource, or you can resize this resource, or you can consider investing in these reservations or savings plans that would drop your costs by this much. So if understanding the unit economics of our cloud, understanding how our costs are tied to value for the organization is step one of any healthy FinOps process, reducing the unit cost associated with public cloud infrastructure is step two. That's the optimization part of that 3-part life cycle. And CloudCheckr is very, very good at that. We have a very robust set of tools for provisioning analysis. We have a very robust set of tools for reduction of waste. And a lot of analysis tools for understanding just how well optimized you are. This, I think, is probably where the cut the clutter title is most apt, because CloudCheckr's ability to identify where you are paying for things you do not in fact need is probably the most impactful. Is probably the most impactful thing that we do. Now, the nice thing about that is that in order to make decisions like that, in order to make decisions about what you're utilizing and whether or not you need it, we're actually collecting a pretty rich data set to tell us, again, what you've got and how it's configured and how it's being utilized. And that can help us with other approaches to reporting and visualization, geographic overlays, so that we can make sure that our resources are deployed in the right geographic regions for what we are building. Really detailed inventory reports, so that even if I just need to produce reports of, compute nodes in a specific region, or compute nodes on a specific family, or compute nodes on a specific family that also have a specific type of tag, and do that, across accounts, across organizations even. That's one of the other nice things about CloudCheckr, is that we are not necessarily tied to the organizational structures from within a given cloud provider. You can aggregate really however you see fit within CloudCheckr. So those, the silly little UX things within consoles of navigating between regions, or authenticating in and out of different accounts just to get complete lists of resources, CloudCheckr truly erases those pain points and shines light into the into what would be dark corners of a public cloud environment. With this rich data set that we have about what's out there and how it's being utilized and how it's configured, we can also look at the other side of the cloud management coin, which is, we're well optimized for cost. Does that necessarily mean that we are well optimized for security? And CloudCheckr's ability to marry the two, make both available in a single tool, I think is what makes us the strongest in the market. You can, even within a single page, identify to-do lists of, here's how I get rid of X amount of wasted cost, but here's how I get rid of this amount of unnecessary exposure within my security posture. So things like misconfigured resources because of, I don't know, gaps in expertise, or something that somebody opened up because they were doing some testing and then forgot to close down, or a resource, or, let's say a user or group that was set up with over permissive policies just because of, maybe it's just a misclick, something that escapes the existing, like, governance policies that you have in place. And CloudCheckr thinks might be a potential danger to your environment. CloudCheckr is really, really good at helping you identify what those are, how to respond to them. And we also can push that information out through operational processes. CloudCheckr can gather the data, CloudCheckr can interpret the data, CloudCheckr can make available in a report a recommendation, but it can also do things like send out scheduled emails. So once a day or once a week or once a month, somebody gets an email that says, hey, here are all the issues that we recognized in the last day or week. Or even better, my favorite way to see this get used is for CloudCheckr to just push information to something like a ticketing system. So I don't know, we'll take an example from this screenshot here. An account, let's say within our 50 AWS accounts or so, has a change made to its identity and access management policies. Maybe password policy shut off, or maybe it's something simpler. Maybe it's some of the requirements for the password policy are adjusted. A minimum length is set too short. We can actually make sure that goes right to, let's say, a Jira project for a team that is specifically supposed to help for those sorts of issues. So CloudCheckr pushes it out. It's we're not creating more operational work here. We're actually just we're integrating right into the processes, the change management and the cloud management processes that our end customers are already familiar with. Now, the screen that we were just on is a specific feature in CloudCheckr that we call our best practice checks. It's a rule set. That's the easiest way to put it. It is a prefabricated rule set that can do audits of configuration and utilization to help us understand where the gaps or the unnecessary resources are in what we already have set up. This probably is my favorite thing that CloudCheckr does. Partly because this is low touch. CloudCheckr in general is not a heavy integration. It's not a migration that you're doing to CloudCheckr. It is truly something that you could plug in for a couple hours, get useful reporting out of immediately, and then if you needed to pull it out, and you'd really never have to make any change to your architecture at all. We obviously like it better when CloudCheckr is put in place and then left in place, because that's how monitoring really should be done in rapidly changing environments. But this tool in particular is a configurable rule set. You get to decide what CloudCheckr is looking for, how it's prioritized, and these checks are built for AWS and Azure, and we're building a set for Google as well. So you can go from one account where CloudCheckr is evaluating the security posture of one account, move to a multi-account view where CloudCheckr is evaluating the security posture of all 50 of your accounts, and then quickly move to another account in CloudCheckr where CloudCheckr is evaluating 50 of your Azure subscriptions. It is truly the best way to establish organizational standard for your setups to make sure that things are growing and ultimately developing in healthy and safe ways. Now, for the most part, I think I touched on this a bit at the beginning of the call. There are some tools within the public cloud providers that do some of the things that CloudCheckr does. But if I were to try to cobble together a service from just native tools from within AWS, let's say, just to take that as our example, I would probably be using anywhere from 6 to 10 different services with different UIs, different outputs, and honestly, not as deep functionality as what we have. Our best practice checks, there's probably a pretty easy analog there for Trusted Advisor, but Trusted Advisor is just now starting to get up to like 200 checks, I think, and CloudCheckr is well up over 600. So we're talking about a much greater ability to again establish organizational standard in detail. And route our deviations away from our sort of idealized cloud configuration through existing processes. We've also got a complete suite for both commercial and GovCloud in AWS and Azure. So everything that works for CloudCheckr works for both commercial and GovCloud, running into approval processes that are making certain things available and certain things not. CloudCheckr authenticates equally well into both GovCloud and commercial regions, and all of the tools that we have available are available for both. CloudCheckr itself is hosted in different regions and hardened in different ways. So CloudCheckr as a SaaS solution is actually available as a FedRAMP SaaS product. We are currently FedRAMP in process. We expect to be fully FedRAMP authorized, I think, by the end of the first calendar quarter of this year. So if you have customers that want to use a tool like CloudCheckr, but don't necessarily want to host it within their own environment, but need something that's FedRAMPed, CloudCheckr is absolutely the go-to. We have our commercial offering hosted in GovCloud. We have a commercial offering hosted in the US. Lots of different options for using CloudCheckr and have it being and have your data hosted and handled how you need it to be. CloudCheckr is very well regarded by analysts. I don't think we necessarily need to spend a ton of time on this, but should you be interested, CloudCheckr has been reported on by a number of the of the market analysts and is treated very favorably. I'm going to take the slides down because I'd actually like to show you a little bit of the CloudCheckr application. And while I do that, I'm going to open up the chat here and see if I've missed any questions. Not yet. Okay. So PowerPoint away. I like demoing CloudCheckr, even if it is quick, because I usually find that it acts as a really nice visual aid for the concepts that I'm trying to cement here. There are some apps that don't demo all that well, but CloudCheckr I think does a really nice job of it. So first things first, we're talking about managing the clutter of disparate cloud environments across AWS, across Azure, across different organizations. Maybe you're a partner that's doing this for multiple customers that are doing multiple AWS organizations and multiple Azure commercial agreements. Maybe you're a CSP, maybe you're a Gov CSP. You have some Gov, you have some commercial. CloudCheckr can authenticate into all of those different places, and then through your like portal here, your account hierarchy, you can organize it however you see fit. This hierarchy also works, also integrates back into an RBAC system. So you as an administrator would be able to see everything in CloudCheckr, but you'd be able to give out access to a given customer, maybe that should only see accounts within a certain folder, just access to that folder. So I might go into my demo CloudCheckr folder here, and I want to look at my AWS accounts. And I'll start with this one, this test payer account. I click on this, CloudCheckr scopes all of my reporting to that account. If I want to swap over to an Azure account, I can just by clicking this folder. And again, it doesn't have to be just AWS in one folder and Azure in another. That's just how I've set up my demo environment. But then over here on the left is where all of our reporting tools open up. Start out up here at the home page with our dashboards. We talked a bit about CloudCheckr as a tool for cost and usage visibility. This is probably the easiest place to get your project managers, your CFOs, your director level folks that just want to look at consumption within the cloud somewhere easy to go for that. Dashboards that are updating multiple times a day with new cost data. They are customizable so that I can design reports that split costs and show me cost breakouts by the attributes that are important to me. As a as an organization, defining that like sort of that FinOps foundation for ourselves, I probably know this particular tag is one that's particularly important for us for understanding where our costs are going, or where the value within our organization is being felt. And I can have more so like data driven or like tabular outputs in here. I can have visual outputs in here where I'm seeing service breakouts, account breakouts, aggregate costs. You could drill down into this and blow this up into full page reports. And then I can even do like multi-dimensional reporting and scheduled reporting and custom report generation from other custom report building tools. Like I said, I can also go easily from this tool into another page that would quickly start to identify for me, hey, this is what you have, but here's what we think ought to change. And so here I can say, okay, CloudCheckr has told me this is a potential problem. CloudCheckr tells me why we think it's a potential problem. We tell you what we think you ought to do to fix it. And then we tell you all the resources that have this particular condition. So when we say best practices, CloudCheckr is not just saying, hey, these are some things that you ought to think about. CloudCheckr is saying, we have gone into your environment. We have collected all the necessary information to make a technical decision about whether this is a problem. We've run the logic, and these are the resources that are failing our technical controls. So like I said before, we can also set up notifications where CloudCheckr sends this stuff out to a Slack channel or a Jira project, ServiceNow, ticketing systems, things like that. And CloudCheckr also maintains historically our information for basically as long as you want. I think we commit to holding up to 3 years of information worth of 3 years worth of information in the actual application with another 4 in archival. But the idea being CloudCheckr is not just a current state reporting tool for what you already have. It's also something that can really help you contextualize either position against specific frameworks or inventory historically. Now, you might look at something like this, a list of all of these potential issues, and start to think, well, I'm not really sure how to prioritize this. And it's true. CloudCheckr puts out a pretty high volume of information, even within a single, like a single sort of classification of issue in here. We might find that a dozen or close to 100 in this particular account is something that's a little difficult to start to prioritize and hack through. And so CloudCheckr can help us with that. CloudCheckr has targeted reporting that will tell us, hey, here are the cost issues that you have. But if you're looking for something that actually prioritizes based on the money that you would save by taking these recommendations, let's go over here to our cost savings dashboard. This is where you'll see each of the types of actions or like types of issues that CloudCheckr has discovered within the environment, splits it out into its own category, and then even individual results very clearly notates, hey, this is the financial or this is what you stand to gain by taking this recommendation, or this is how much money you're wasting by not taking this recommendation. And ensures that a quick summary or even a more detailed one is just a click away, and you can either keep that for yourself and go remediate, or send it out to somebody else. Now, security issues are probably a little bit tougher because it's a little hard to put like a specific quantifiable value on resolution of a potential a potential breach, or even just like a weakness in security posture. So the way that CloudCheckr approaches that is by looking back at where our checks actually come from, or in particular, the business value that those checks can have for somebody that's interested in aligning their security posture with a given compliance framework. So our compliance module down here does things like map our best practice checks to the AWS foundations for CIS, or CIS foundations for AWS. We also have a tool that we call our total compliance report, which takes our best practice checks and aligns them to other like regulatory compliance frameworks like NIST, 800-171 and 853, and cybersecurity. We also have things like SOC 2 and ISO and HIPAA and PCI, all of these different ways to essentially extract subsets from that much, much larger set of individual controls to say, here's the superset that we provide. Here is the set of controls from this given framework, and here's the intersection. CloudCheckr can provide you with these tools for measurement, and here are the ones that are relevant to this control within this framework. And as you go through and remediate things, these go from no to yes, and your percentage of compliance goes up, and you can track your progress over time. Essentially, that's the idea. For partners looking to deliver, better like security auditing services down to end customers, or end customers that are looking to either prepare for audits or just do a better job of prioritizing information that's that's coming from posture management tooling. This is perfect for them. Just because it's essentially taking what is a large and sometimes difficult to digest volume of information and really targeting what CloudCheckr's insight can impact from like an actual business value perspective. Okay, CloudCheckr has literally hundreds of other pages in the tool that we have not seen. The resources module is full of service-specific inventory reporting. The automation module is focused on a few specific like cleanup actions that CloudCheckr can take. Like I said, CloudCheckr's focus is not on automation. Largely, the Spot portfolio's focus is on automation, so we tend to hand off there. But we also have cost alerting and further analysis tools, more detailed like multidimensional reporting and tagging tools. Folks that are doing chargeback and actually need to do pricing customization can do it in CloudCheckr. We saw a little bit of the compliance module, but there's also a security module with even more ancillary tools for posture analysis and historical auditing and reporting and activity and change-based alerting. But I've hit the time that I was looking to finish up and just gather questions and make sure that we're wrapping up properly. So with the 10 minutes that we have remaining, are there any questions from anybody on the call? Please feel free to put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. Like Megan said, I think we're a small enough audience that we can probably handle that. So any questions at all about what CloudCheckr does or doesn't do, things that you saw in the UI that you want to talk more about, things I didn't explain well, anything at all? Okay. I will take silence as a no and an indication that I did a really good job explaining what it does. But really, I think what we'd like to do from here, if there aren't any specific questions, is make sure that you guys know a couple things. The first of which is, give me one moment just to get my screen share pushed back up. Is make sure that you guys know, get through these quickly, make sure you guys know that we have another session from the EBC coming up on February 15th with our Global Alliance Director, Jason, talking about the actual migration. So if CloudCheckr is designed to help you once the migration is completed, the migration to GovCloud is something that we'll talk about on February 15th. Also, you will get a survey later today about this call, just with a little bit of feedback about the call itself. And in there is a prompt if you have further questions about what CloudCheckr does, or if you have opportunities that you're looking for our help, just providing some further education on CloudCheckr, or even like active pursuits that you want CloudCheckr to participate in, please fill out that prompt in there, and you'll get connected with somebody like me, somebody like Fred, Fred Justice from the CloudCheckr team that can help you sort of strategize and actually introduce CloudCheckr where it deserves to be introduced. But I think what I'll do is I'll put myself back on mute here and let Megan finish up. Thank you guys very much for having me.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Kirk. And we'll just keep an eye on the chat and see if any other additional questions come in. As Eric mentioned, we do have that upcoming session in a couple of weeks, and I did put the link to that registration page in the chat, so you all should have access to it. And as he mentioned, we will be sending that follow-up survey that will also include a link to this recording and the slides that were shared. But we really do encourage, if Eric did a great job showcasing in that demo the power of CloudCheckr, but we want to continue the conversation with all of you. And so if there's a more focused one-on-one demo about how it could be best used in your organization, is something you're interested in, that question will be in the survey, and we really encourage you to kind of raise your hand yes to that, and we'll make sure you're connected with the right folks to get that set up. But I do want to thank you all for your time today, and we hope this session was of value to you and just spending the time with us to learn a little bit more. And so thank you all.